Okay, about the fifth time solving inequalities, graphing your solution. Okay, so, and again, you got to follow your procedures. If you can't do that, that's a problem. I've done everything I can possibly do to set you up right here. You just got to execute it. Okay, solve the inequalities, draw a number line with 0 in the middle. Make sure all the x's in the problem have a number connected, so I should probably put a 1 in front of that, so I know it's 1x. Make sure all there can't be any parentheses, and that's not usually an issue. Okay, if there was, I'd have to do the rainbows, but there's not. Okay, you can't have more than 1x. I have just a solo x here. That's not a problem. Dot and circle the x term. Is that x term positive or negative? It's positive, so don't switch. Keep it the same. Okay, add or subtract outside the circle if you need to. Well, I got a plus 7. I'm going to have to do that. So I've got 1 dot x. I've got my sign. And then negative 3 minus 7 is negative 10. And now we can go ahead and divide. It's just a 1, but you can go ahead and divide it out if you want. It's not really, it's going to still be negative 10. So I've got x and negative 10. So that's my solution. Now I just have to graph it. So negative 10. Circle the line's not there, so leave it empty. And then the nose goes this way, so the arrow goes this way. Okay, number 2. Negative 4x is less than 64, so draw the number line with 0 in the middle. Negative 4 times x is what that means. Make sure all the x's have a number in front so I know what the multiplier is. There's already a 4 there, so I'm good. No parentheses. You can't have more than 1x. I have just a solo x here. Dot and circle the x term. Okay, decide if the sign needs to be switched. So is that x term negative? Yeah, so you need to switch. Change that to the opposite way. Okay, it's greater than now. And then add or subtract outside the circle if you need to. Well, I'm not going to have to here because it's just negative 4 times x. So 64 is on the other side. No adding and subtracting needed, or should be done. Divide, okay? And we're going to, when we divide, we're going to put that answer here. So I have x. Sign has been changed. And 64 divided by negative 4 is negative 16. Okay, so negative 16, there's my solution. Circle it, the line's not there, so again the nose goes this way, so the arrow goes this way. Okay, next problem. I'm not going to use this sheet here, okay, because there's a fraction, so I'm going to make another fraction. And I'm going to cross multiply and divide. Now, this x term, the number under the x here is negative. So the x term is negative. The number I'm going to be multiplying by is negative. So that sign needs to switch. So switch it. So about that number right there, the number that the x is being divided by. Okay, so I use cross multiply and divide, CMAD. So I multiply negative 4 times 5 and then just divide that by 1. And that's going to be negative 20. Let's check and see if I'm right. Yep. So the x is here, but now it's all by itself, and then I got negative 20. So there's the solution. There's no line there, so leave it empty, and then it just goes this way. Okay, next problem, number 4. Draw the number line with 0 in the middle. Make sure all the x's in the problem have a number in front. So that has a 3 in front. We're good. It has a negative 3 as the multiplier. There are no parentheses. Can't have more than 1x. I'm good there. I just have a solo x right here. Dot and circle the x term. Decide if the sign needs to be switched. Now, is that a negative? Is the x term negative? Is the dot number negative? Yes, so it needs to be switched. So it goes the other way. Add or subtract outside the circle if you need to. Well, I'm going to have to. We got plus 6. And I've got negative 3 dot x, the sign. And negative 12 minus 6 is negative 18. And now it is time to divide. Negative 3 times x is negative 8. So what number times negative 3 would give you negative 18? Well, we divide to find out. So that's x. The sign has been switched because I'm dividing both sides by a negative. And then negative 18 divided by negative 3 is 6. Because when you divide both sides by a negative, then the sign on that number changes. Other than the fact that it changes into 6, the sign also switches and it becomes positive. So 6. Now the line's actually there this time, so finally we're going to fill it in, and it's going to go this way. Okay, 2x plus 5 is less than 3x minus 4. So draw your number line. Make sure all the x's in the problem have a number in front, and that has a 2 and that has a 3. There can't be any parentheses. That's not an issue here. You cannot have more than one x. Well, it appears that's a problem here because I don't have a solo x. There's 2 of them. Now, if they're on the same side of this sign here, the inequality, we're going to add them together, make your adding pyramid. But if they're on opposite side, we switch the right to the opposite. So it looks like these two here are on opposite sides. So we want to switch this 3 to a negative 3, meaning I'm going to minus it from 2x. So 2 minus 3 is negative 1. Plus 5, I have my sign, and then I have negative 4. Okay, now that you have a solo x right here, you can dot and circle it. Now, does the sign need to be switched? Is that x term that I circled negative? Is there a negative in there? Yes, so change that. Switch. Okay, add or subtract outside the circle if you need to. Yeah, I got a plus 5. So we minus 5, minus 5. So negative 1 dot x, got my sign, and that's negative 9. Or, okay, divide. And then put the answer here. So you got x. Negative 9 divided by negative 1 is 9. So x is all numbers greater than 9, not less than, because I had to switch the sign. So 9 is your critical number. Don't fill it in. It'll just go this way. Okay, number 6. 16 is less than or equal to negative 2x plus 8, which is less than or equal to 30. So number line 0 in the middle. Make sure all the x's in the problem have a number in front. There's only this x that has a negative 2. No parentheses, there are none. You cannot have more than one x, and I'm good there. I just have this solo x right here. Dot and circle that x term. So that's my solo x. Is it negative? Yes. Okay, so the signs are going to have to be switched, both of them. And we're just going to, we just want x in the middle. I'm going to need to find the number here and the number here. I'm going to find that by minusing 8 from here and here, and then dividing both of those by negative 2. Okay, so add or subtract outside the circle. Well, we have a plus 8 outside of there. So I cover these up because I'm worried about in the middle. Plus 8, so I minus 8 to get rid of it, and then from here and here. So what's 16 minus 8? It's 8. Then we have our sign, negative 2 dot x, and then the other sign, and then 22. Okay, now it's time to divide. We want to fill it in this way. I divide each one of these two outsides by negative 2. Okay, so 8 divided by negative 2 is negative 4, and then the sign changed. And then I have x in the middle, and then 22 divided by negative 2 is negative 11. So they're both on this side because negative 4 is closer in and negative 11 is further out. So we circle. Both lines are there, so we fill them both in. And then all we do, we don't worry about what direction they go. We're just going to connect them. That means x can be any number as long as it's in the range between -11 and -4, instead of just greater than 9 or greater than 6. Okay, now the graphing part. Here's y and here's x, so they're both here. So it's either one of those two. Now, are they on opposite sides or the same side? Appears to me they're on opposite sides, so I'm going to use the slope and y-intercept as the best way to graph those types. Okay, my slope is whatever's in front of the x, which in this problem is -4, but I need to make that a fraction by putting a 1 in the denominator. And then my y-intercept is the +6. Okay, we should graph our y-intercept first. It's either straight up or straight down. Well, it's positive, so it's going to go straight up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I use my slope from the first point, so from this point right here. That's important, not from the middle. With the tables, we go from the middle, but not with a slope from the first point. So the top number is either up or down. It's negative, so I'd go down, and this is going to the right. So from the first point, not from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, right 1. Okay, go ahead and make your line. Now, since there's an inequality, a less than sign, we need to do our true-false test. So this is my test point. At this point, x is 0 and y is 0. So I need to put 0 in for y and 0 in for x and see if it's true or false. If it's true, I'll put t on over this point, and then the other side's false. But if it's false, it's ft. Okay, so here's a y. Nothing in front of it, so just scribble it out and put 0. And here's an x as a -4, so before I scribble it out, I need to put it in parentheses, and I have 0. So what do I have here? 0. Then what do I have? I have the sign. Then what do I have? A -4. Then what do I have? A parentheses that now contains the number 0. Then what do I have? +6. Okay, so I need to figure out what -4 times 0 plus 6 equals. I have a sneaking suspicion it's 6, so -4 times 0, because that's 0. And then if I add 6, it's 6. Okay, now the nose should point towards a smaller number. So this is my smaller number. Does the nose point towards it? Yeah, so that's true. So I put T, go to the other side, and put F. If that point worked, if that was a tree, just put a T over it, cross over the line, and put F on the other side. Every point over here is true, every point over here is false. Okay, -3x plus 2y is less than or equal to -6. So x and y are both in this inequality, so I got to decide if they're on opposite or the same side. Well, here's the sign. They're on the same side this time. So I don't want to use the slope method. That would be too much work. Okay, I'd have to rearrange stuff. I haven't really taught you how to do that. We want to use the Xy Intercept method, right? 0, 0. Now, how do you find these numbers that go here? Well, you're going to write the equation twice. -3x plus 2y, then just put equals -6. Because I don't want to have to worry about flipping the sign and all that. So if x is 0, we can cancel that out, and then dot your 2, and then just divide by 2. And -6 divided by 2 is -3. So if the x is 0, the y is -3. And remember what that means. The x is sideways, so stay, and this is up or down, and you're going down. Okay, now if the y is 0, we're going to scribble that out. We're going to dot our -3x, so we know that means -3 times x equals -6, and I'll just divide by -3. And -6 divided by -3 is +2. Now again, this is sideways, okay, as it says right here. Now is it positive? Yeah, it is, so it goes to the right, and this means stay. So I stay and go down 3. 1, 2, 3. Now, when you have an XY table, you go back to the middle, okay? It's not like a slope where you go from the first point. You go back to the middle and then go right 2 and stay. Okay, now we run our test because we have a less than sign. Okay, so here's the point I want to pick. Easiest point. X is 0, Y is 0. You can pick any point, but this is the best one. So here's X. I want to parenthesize it before I scribble it out, so that's 0. And here's Y. I want to parenthesize it before I scribble it out, and that's 0. So what do I have now? I have negative 3, and then a parentheses which contains the number 0, plus 2. Then I have a parentheses with the number 0, and then my sign, and then negative 6. Okay, so I know I have negative 6 over here, but I need to figure out what I have over here. Well, I have a sneaking suspicion if I take negative 3 times 0 plus 2 times 0, it's 0. Okay, now what's smaller, negative 6 or 0? Here's a hint. Negatives are always smaller than 0, so circle the smaller one, and the nose should point towards that number, but it doesn't, so that's false. So that's an F. Put an F. Go to the other, cross over to the line you made, and the line's like your dividing point, and that's T.